Welcome to Saints and Stillness, a quiet series following the men and women of the Church of England's liturgical calendar. Tonight we come to Matthias the Apostle, whose feast day falls on the 14th of May. He is in some ways the most unusual of all the apostles, not chosen by Jesus himself, but by the remaining 11 after the Ascension. And yet the Church has always held him among the 12. Before we come to his story, let us simply sit with who he was. The name Matthias is a form of Matthias, meaning in Hebrew, gift of God. Beyond his name, and beyond the single passage in the book of Acts that tells of his election, we know almost nothing about him. He is not mentioned in the Gospels. He appears once in the whole of the New Testament, and then he is gone from the written record. And yet, what we do know is this: he had been there from the very beginning. He had followed Jesus from his baptism by John all the way through to the Ascension. A faithful witness who never once stepped forward into the light of history. The story of his election unfolds in the first chapter of Acts. After the ascension of Jesus, the disciples gathered in Jerusalem. Peter rose and said that someone must be appointed to take the place of Judas, to restore the 12 to their full number. He set out 2 conditions. The new apostle must have been with Jesus from the beginning, and he must have been a witness to the resurrection. 2 names were offered: Joseph, also called Barsabbas, and Matthias. They prayed, they drew lots, and the lot fell on Matthias. The drawing of lots may feel unfamiliar to us. It could seem as though the decision was simply left to fortune. But in the long tradition of Israel, the drawing of lots was understood as a way of listening for the will of God. The disciples had already prayed very openly, "Lord, you know the hearts of everyone. Show us which of these 2 you have chosen." So the lot was not a throw of the dice. It was a form of prayer, a form of openness. God was being asked to reveal his own choice. And the lot fell on Matthias, and he was numbered among the disciples. In that moment, quietly and without ceremony, the 12 were whole again. Beyond that moment, we have to follow tradition rather than what is written in the New Testament. The early church historian Eusebius believed Matthias was one of the 70 disciples whom Jesus sent out in Luke's Gospel, which would mean he had been a follower long before the inner circle was formed. Various traditions place him in Judea, Cappadocia, Georgia, and Ethiopia. The ancient abbey at Trier in Germany has long venerated what it holds to be his remains, and he is the patron of that old and beautiful city. In the common worship calendar, Matthias is observed as a festival, one of the more honoured days in the Anglican year, as it befits an apostle. The older Book of Common Prayer placed his feast on the 24th of February. Common worship moved it to the 14th of May, bringing it into Eastertide, nearer to the feast of the Ascension, the very moment from which his story grows. There's something tender about Matthias's obscurity. Every tradition of faith loves its luminous figures, but the life of the Church has always been carried day after day by people whose names are never written down. Matthias is a kind of representative of all of them. He was faithful from the beginning. He was present throughout. He witnessed everything, and he was chosen precisely because of that long, quiet faithfulness. He had simply been there, and in the end, that was what the whole of what was needed. Matthias is honoured as a martyr, though the details are veiled in uncertainty. The epitaph at his tomb in Trier offers a beautiful image of the man, learned in the law of the Lord, pure in his life, wise in his spirit, a faithful reader of the Scriptures, a gentle counsellor, a gifted preacher, and one who, at the end, entrusted his soul to God with his hands raised toward heaven. There is one more thing the Acts of the Apostles quietly shows us. When Matthias was received among the 11, the number of the 12 was whole again. That wholeness mattered deeply to the early church. The 12 apostles corresponded to the 12 tribes of Israel, the renewed foundation of God's renewed people. When Judas had gone, something essential was left open. The receiving of Matthias was a gentle act of restoration. He stepped into that opening and filled it faithfully. There is a saying attributed to Matthias, preserved for us in the writings of Clement of Alexandria. He is remembered as having said, "We must not indulge the flesh, but rather let our souls grow through faith and deep knowing." It sits very naturally alongside everything we sense about this man, someone who had followed Jesus for years without recognition or attention. His whole life seems to have been a quiet turning away from the need to be seen and a turning towards something more lasting. So what might Matthias offer to those of us who are trying in our own way to live faithfully? Perhaps this one simple thing, that faithfulness does not need to be visible. Matthias was there from the very beginning. He saw everything. He followed through everything. And he left almost no trace in the written record. The community chose him because he had been faithful in the ordinary, unhurried way, day after day, year after year, without an audience. His election did not make him famous. He remained as he had always been, quietly present, and perhaps that is not a small calling. Perhaps for many of us it is the very calling we have been given. The texts on screen are good places to read further. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Next time we come to Carolyn Chisholm on the 16th of May. Good night and God bless.